Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. Going to spend some time talking to you about you and your business. Delighted to have Jack Melton on the program. He's a new contributor, regular contributor, both on the Price of Business radio show and the soon-to-be launched, starting January 3rd, Price of Business TV show. And he brings this incredible insight and background into our program, and we're delighted to have him as a regular on our show. Jack, always glad to have you on. By the way, his website, nasrisk.com. North American Solutions is your company. You can find it online, nasrisk.com. Jack, as always, good to talk to you.
You too. Appreciate it, Kevin.
Let's start again, because Willie is always good. We always have new listeners, and so it always makes sense. Tell us your story and the story of North American Solutions.
Okay. Well, North American Solutions provides insurance and risk management services for schools, colleges, and other public entities. But we're part of a larger family of companies that has over 50 years of experience, and together we serve more than 4,000 public entities nationwide.
Yeah, and what are your areas of expertise as far as clientele?
Yeah, well, what we do is we specialize in placing property, casualty, and workers' compensation insurance, and then we package that with risk management services to help drive down their overall cost. And so our primary strategy or goal is to deliver the highest quality experience and the lowest long-term cost, because these are public entities. They have to buy insurance every year for the next 100 years. They don't need the best one-year deal. They need the best long-term deal.
Right. We're also looking at things like you're primarily working a lot in the education systems, I understand, and government entities, but you're also looking at nonprofits. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. There's a lot of nonprofit and public entities out there. For example, mud districts. We're talking with a couple of groups right now that manage several hundred mud districts in the state of Texas. And we're starting to see some of our public school experience bleed into the private side as well. So, a school is a school. And so we can take what we've learned on the public school side and apply it to private universities, charter schools, and things of that nature.
How big of a school does it need to be something that makes sense for you guys to take care of?
Well, for us, we're not trying to be all things to all people. The medium to large schools and public entities make sense for us. Because of our high level of service that we deliver, we need kind of a minimum size to do a good job for everybody.
Right. This makes sense in terms of your company's economy of scale.
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about 2016, what it meant for you, 2015 rather, what it's meant for you and your anticipations about 2016 for your company.
Well, 2015 was our 21st year in the business, and we actually had our best year ever. We made some big strategic moves towards the end of the year, looking towards 2016. As we're expanding our business model into other states, we actually hired one of our larger clients to come on board and bring that unique client perspective. We've been in the business a long time, but we're on the insurance side, and we think we see things pretty well. But when you bring a client on board, it really helps you understand things from the client's point of view. So that's a big, That's a brilliant idea. I love that from a marketing and business development perspective. It's very unique. Absolutely. We're going to be able to take that. One of their roles will be to develop educational content for a lot of the associations that our clients know and trust. And so if we can bring them some really valuable resources from someone who is one of their peers and has been in their shoes, I think we're bringing a lot to the client and the prospects.
Yep. So what are the challenges that your company is facing this year?
Well, we're in what we refer to as a soft market, about 10 years of a soft market where there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of new companies that come in this kind of market when you have a lot of capital out there. And so it's the vision for the client, it gets really spread out, and it's tough for them to really focus on different offerings. So that creates some challenges for our sales force and out there and helping them understand all the options in front of them and making sure that they do get with an option that makes sense for them long term. We see a lot of these companies that come in a soft market, they'll be here 2 or 3 years, and as soon as things get tough, they pull out. And a lot of times we've seen schools being non-renewed, and remember back in 2003 when we had schools actually calling us, begging us to quote for them, and that's not something you see very often, but that's kind of the result of these new competitors that come in sometimes. You got to vet them properly.
Yeah, they didn't like what they got. You know, they thought it was the deal of the century, and little did they realize they were being dealt with.
Right. Things look good when you have 6 or 7 options, but when you have 0 or 1, things get tough.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And a lot of times there are perceived options, and then there's real options. And so a company like yours with 2 decades experience can help bring those real ones. Right. Talk a little bit. One of the reasons why we have you as part of our program is because of the business acumen and the experience you bring as an executive. You know, so what kind of things do you do as a professional to wrap up a year, as we're now, of course, in the final weeks of this one?
Well, you know, a lot of strategic planning. You know, we have our strategy, we have our 5-point strategy, but you have to be willing to modify that when things make sense. Strategies stay in place for a long time, and they generally don't change very often, but you have to have those checkpoints. And we formally, every 6 months, we sit down and we look at our long-term strategy. We ask ourselves a lot of tough questions, and then you just have to have the courage to go out and execute that strategy. A lot of times when you're investing in a strategy, the perceived benefits aren't immediate, or you can't really tie a benefit exactly to an investment, but over long term, if you do invest in a solid strategy, the results take care of themselves. So a lot of planning and a lot of reflection.
Yeah, prior preparation prevents poor performance. That's a cliche a mentor told me, and I think that applies from individuals to enterprise-level companies and everything in between.
Right. And I think the power to say no to, one of the many things I got out of reading Steve Jobs' book is you got to be willing to say no to a lot of opportunities and make sure you stay focused on the 5 most important ones, or just a handful of the most important ones, so you don't spread yourself too thin. And there's a lot of power in the word no sometimes.
Absolutely. I increasingly show my age. Fewer and fewer people are familiar with Green Acres. My dad tells me you might be familiar with the TV show Green Acres. And Mr. Haney would sell anything. Of course, he didn't sell anything very well. And I think there's a lot of companies that are guilty of that.
Right, and and the thing about it really drives your margins when you try to be all things to all people. You're operating on thin margins, and the importance of good profit margins for companies is the ability to reinvest in themselves in additional services and products for their customers. So, paying attention to those margins, really focusing on some aspect of the industry you're in, I think is very important. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, what you focus on, you master. And I encourage everyone, no matter what kind of business they're in, find a specialty in the industry and just master it. The results will take care of themselves.
Yeah, no question about it. Good advice. Good note to end on. Jack Melton, he's a regular now on The Price of Business. He's a contributor on the program. He's with National American Solutions, and that is NASRisk.com. Good talking to you, Jack.
You too. Thanks, Kevin.
When we come back, much more for you. And do want to remind you, the best content here shows up over there at USDailyReview.com.